It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Okay, this next one's a fun question. And this username, here we go. This is from OMG Mr. Pickles. Love it. He says, "Hey team, always love the content." Thank you. Glad to hear it. I was wondering if you have any resources for combining finances pre and post marriage. He recently proposed successfully. Congratulations. And he's trying to plan ahead for the next step. So we do have a lot of resources for him.
Okay, I thought this question was so different. Okay, I'm with you now.
What did you think?
His question was, hey, I'm thinking about combining finances. What tips do you have pre and post marriage? I think he was thinking like, all right, well, how do we prepare for this? And then when this whole thing doesn't work out, what's the out strategy?
No, he means like in the engagement phase and then in the married phase. Very different. Very, very different.
That's awesome. Okay.
That's funny.
All right. So he wants to know, like, what advice do we have pre and post? Ruby, you have been married.
I have.
Much more recently than I have been married. What would you say to him? Like, what are some things that you would sell him? Or what are some things that you did personally that helped you guys prepare for marriage, but then also kind of combine and put things together, if you guys even put things together?
Yeah, no, first of all, definitely have the conversations. I love this question because you are setting yourself up for success just by having this conversation with your fiance and then continuing that when you're married. The second thing is, I think you do kind of want to talk about your why. Like, okay, what are we after? Are we trying to pay off debt? Are we trying to reach financial independence at a certain time? How do you see yourself living when we're 65, or even how do you see yourself living when we're 30, 40, 50, those kinds of things. Just having those conversations ongoing is the right call. And then that's when you can kind of get a plan in place, right? And that's why we have the financial order of operations. We talk about this all the time, but it's truly perfect for this kind of thing. When you're in a relationship, it's 9 steps. These are tried and true. It's going to tell you exactly what to do with your next dollar together. And so it's going to give you something to focus on together, to unite your goals, so that when you are kind of like, all right, this is our budget, or we need to save this, or we want to invest here, you both know why. And like, well, we have to get that employer match first. That's step 2. It's going to help you have those conversations and kind of take the guesswork out of it, and even take a little bit of the opinion out of it. Like, oh, well, I want to do this. Well, I want to do this. It's going to give you something to unite on. So those are definitely the kind of conversations that my husband and I have had. And we've definitely kind of come back to those 9 steps a lot throughout our life, even as like, we just had a kid or we bought a house a few years back, that kind of thing. It's also going to bring you back. I am a big proponent for that. Like, okay, we just put this down payment on our house. We paid for movers, all this crazy stuff. Okay, wait. Now where are we? Okay, we need to go back to like step 5, make sure that emergency fund is good, all of that. So I highly recommend that. You can download that lovely handout that Bo just held up, the 9 steps, for free. moneyguy.com/resources. That's available to you. But honestly, for you, the deep dive might be even more perfect. We have a course that you can work through with your fiance at learn.moneyguy.com. It's got tons of videos of Brian and Bo doing a deep dive on all the steps. We've got a homework handout for you to work through together. It's going to help you, actually see how it's customize those steps to your situation. And then also we've got a community, a Facebook group out there with all the other course participants that you can, swap stories, share notes, kind of get advice, help each other out, and just connect with other like-minded people who are going through this as well. And some people who might be in similar circumstances to you guys. So that's what I would say. That's been super valuable. And then kind of as a side, I know this is kind of maybe it's a hot take. I don't know. You have to do what's right for you. But we did combine bank
everything
accounts.
Joint. Love it.
And I think it's really helpful. It definitely helps. It's never a competition. Nobody's ever like guessing what the other one is spending, or it just makes communication so much easier. So I am a proponent for that, just based on my experience. So I would definitely talk about that and consider doing that, just because I think it's going to set you up for success in the long run and actually unite your financial plan, your financial decisions. So yeah, that's what we've done, and it's been good so far. Like, we're still on the journey with you, but those are great places to start.
I love everything that you said. I'll speak to one thing that you didn't say that I found in my marriage was super valuable. We also combined joint accounts. Now, I don't want to suggest that you have to do that.
Yeah, some people don't.
We have clients that keep separate accounts and do separate things, and they have a highly efficient and effective functioning financial household. For us, everything together made a lot of sense. Joint accounts, joint credit cards, all the stuff. What it allowed me to do is my wife and I have different consumption behavior. She's not a crazy spender, but she's crazier than I am, right? She spends more money than I am. And we place value on different things.
Sure.
Well, when we first got married, it was hard for me to get my mind wrapped around that. I'm like, babe, why on earth are you spending that much on shampoo? Suave is $1. Like, you can go get... Why are you buying the organic? Why are you buying that type of food? We can go do. Why are you? What it forced us to do, because everything was together and we had the same credit card statement and we had the same bank account, is we saw, like when I went to the grocery store, she saw the way I did it. And when she went to the grocery store, I saw the way that she did it. And we were at the grocery store and, send each other, we go get different things and we look at the buggy. It's interesting, right? It allowed us to figure out what each one of us values. Frankly, I had to learn a lot more than she did. She warmed up to saving way faster than I warmed up to spending, but she's a much better person than I am. I'll make no bones about that. She is a wonderful person.
Jenna.
We had to really recognize what is different about us. And just because she values this doesn't mean that I should not or try to change her mind from valuing that. But what we did to get us on the same page, and you said it right, is we had some common goals. Hey, we know we want to start a family. We want to do this. We want to be able to do this. We want our life to look like this in 10 years. We want our life to look like this in 20 years. And we had those common visions where we say, okay, hey, if those are the things that we value and those are the directions that we want to be heading, here are the steps that we should take to get there. Now, in my mind, I'd have us saving like 70% of our money because I love saving. That would not work for her. So we had to find out some balance that, okay, it's okay if we save money this way, but it's also okay if we spend money this way. And me, being the financial person, it took me a long time to recognize that I can't just beat her over the head with how we ought to do finances. It has to be like this mutual thing that we figure out together and we work on together and we talk about together. And that's allowed it to be, it's not a source of contention anymore because we practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. So I think the earlier you can figure that out in marriage and not let money be in it. I don't know the stat. We used to have the stat about how many divorces are cited. There's like infidelity, but I think that like the second or one of those.
It's a high reason. Finances. Arguments about
money.
finances.
That's right.
Yeah. You don't want that to come in your way.
Like if you can solve or not solve, but start working on that early on in your marriage, I think you're going to give yourself a higher likelihood of setting yourself up for success. But here's the other thing. It's hard for people that are young starting out to do this. It's also really hard for folks that are later in life. Perhaps this is a second marriage, or perhaps that you've built up your own financial thing. You have your own financial baggage that you're bringing into it. I think for every relationship you go into like that, the earlier you can get on the same page about what you value, how you want to treat finances, if you guys can find an agreement on that, it's just going to set things up to be a lot. Marriage is hard. It's hard. The more things you can move out of the hard category, the better off I think
it makes it easier for
That's
sure.
Right.
And so congrats on your engagement. Hopefully that kind of gives you some good food for thought and some action items. Thanks so much for asking the question. It's a great question.